Okay, so last class we had a quick introduction, rather we started chapter 5 and left it at that. So hopefully this class we will see the whole chapter 5. There is a very practical relevance to chapter 5. In fact, there is practical relevance to every chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But chapter 5, as I tried to introduce last class, chapter 5 started with the same question which Arjuna asked at the beginning of chapter 3. And what was that question? He said, please tell me, is karma yoga better or karma sannyasa better? So within a span of 4 chapters, he is coming to the same question second time. He actually comes to the same question once or twice again. I think we need to reflect very deeply on this point. Why is such a great warrior asking this question? Arjuna is a great warrior, as the story goes. Let's not get into whether Arjuna exists at all. Let us not waste time. Let's understand the context. Arjuna is a great warrior and he is asking this question the second time. There is a deeper meaning to this question because we all do it in our life. How do we do it? There are occasions in our life when we feel very low. I mean, the context, we saw chapter 1. The context is very grave here. Chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita says that. Notwithstanding that, look at the spirit. When we are low, when we feel upset, when we feel that we are not able to handle the situation. Situation can be anything. The son is not listening to me, something is not happening in the office, my wife is or my spouse is not agreeing with a very important decision which we have to take. There are numerous occasions like that in our life. When we feel low in our life, you know what happens? We tend to suddenly get fancy into the idea of getting into detachment. This is a very common thing. He has taken it too far because the problem is also too far. Please understand that. The problem is also grave. See, when we confront a very difficult situation in life, one of our natural tendency in life is to suddenly talk of detachment. It has its own degrees. Minimum thing we say, now I will not unnecessarily ask anything. There are a whole range of things which we do in life. I mean, a child does it, a middle-aged man does it, an old person does it, everybody does it. That is the point you have to get from this chapter. And Krishna is actually addressing that point. I mean, we are using sannyasa and all that. What is he trying to? There is a very important message you will see in chapter 5. And that message is, when we are not able to handle situations, solution is not escaping from that. Because the perspective from which Arjuna is coming, why can't I have sannyasa, is the perspective of escaping. I want to escape from this reality. That is what he is getting at. So the reply that Krishna is giving, I want you to link it to our day-to-day life. Krishna is making a very important message in this chapter 5. He says, you cannot evolve by escaping from situations. You evolve by facing situations, not by escaping situations. Because if the solution is to escape, then life can be a lot easier. We can just escape from situations. There is a very difficult situation in the office, we escape from it. There is a very difficult situation in the family, we escape from it. There is a very difficult situation involving some people around us, escape. That is the spirit of the question that Arjuna asked. So when he said sannyasa, because somewhere we link it like that. We think sannyasa means take your hands off, no responsibilities, stay away from so-called worldly responsibilities. That is the meaning of sannyasa, which many of us know. Whereas Krishna is a great realist. So he does not want Arjuna to understand life like that. He does not want Arjuna to understand that's the way to evolve. Krishna is talking in Bhagavad Gita only about evolution. Every one of us must evolve. Every one of us must develop a self which is as solid as rock. That is the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. So with that spirit, let us now look at the shlokas. Then, although the messages appear at one level, with this link we should be able to connect it. So that's why I wanted to bring this issue again, and then let's look at chapter 5 quickly. So it is sannyasa yoga. So very squarely Krishna addresses sannyasa. And another thing I want you to understand, and we had to reflect on it. A person who is God talking about sannyasa is not a sannyasi. Either by looks, in terms of the dress he wears, or by whatever little we understood about sannyasa, in whatever worldly understanding. And the person who is receiving is also nowhere near sannyasa. Still this chapter is called sannyasa yoga. I want you to understand the spirit of this chapter. That's the true spirit of sannyas. He establishes that idea in chapter 5. What is the true spirit of sannyas? It's not escaping and running away. That's what he is going to say. So this chapter, as I quickly told you, I'll go over it again. Started with Arjuna's question, should I do karma yoga or karma sannyas? And Krishna replied it, right? But then, in fact, in all such occasions, Krishna dismissed the question and went on answering something. It requires a higher level of understanding to connect. So anyway, so then Krishna, in reply to it, he talks about karma yoga. Arjuna asked, will karma yoga lead to karma sannyasa? Karma yoga or karma sannyasa? Krishna simply dismisses that with a few shlokas which we will see, then gets on as usual, life as usual, business as usual into karma yoga. And then he explains why karma yoga is the only way to lead to sannyasa. He maps a perspective of sannyasa which is very interesting. He maps a paradigm of sannyasa which we need to understand. It's for worldly people. In fact, only worldly people can attain sannyas. That's the message he is actually getting at. So that's what he is saying here. And then he says a person who is able to walk through this path, how that person will evolve. So that's how the chapter ends. So to me it's a very, very important chapter, because in everyday life we visit this idea, albeit in different magnitudes. The magnitude may be different. We become detached when we face disappointments, when we face difficulties in facing situations, when we find the going is not good, we get the snippet of some sannyasa. He actually addresses that. So we'll start quickly, we'll try to go over it. Arjuna Uvacha.
If the prajna is detached, attachment should be sustained.
So should be sustained, yes. True.
Means when we are feeling low, as you said, at that time the detachment is just temporary.
Yes. That's a very nice point, yes.
That should sustain.
Absolutely. Arjuna Uvacha. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha shamsasi yat shreyah eteyoho ekam tanme bruhi sunischitam. You decide. You are confusing. Same thing he said in chapter 3 also. Chapter 3 he said the same thing. Sunischitam tat me bruhi eteyoho. Between the two what? Yogam, karma yogam and karmanam sannyasam. Giving up work and the so-called karma yoga that you are talking, between the two, you are telling this, you are telling that. Again you are telling this, you are telling that. Why are you confusing us? So you decide. Sunischitam bruhi yat shreyah. Of these two, which is the one which will give me sustained prosperity and contentment, you decide and tell me that. So that is why Arjuna is asking, within a span of 2 chapters he is coming again, because he wants to run away. He doesn't want to face situations. Situation is very grave. I sympathize with him. We all sympathize with him. The solution does not lie there is what the solution which Krishna is going to give. So that's why he asked this question. Same question he asked. Vyamishrena, you mixed two ideas. Mishra is mixing. The word English mixing has come from Mishra only anyway. Mishra is actually mixing. Vyamishrena vakyena, you are telling both. Buddhi mohayasi, you are deluding my buddhi. Right? Tad ekam vada nischitya yena shreyaha aham apnuyam. Same question. What will give me shreyas? Please tell me. That's what he asked in 3. He asked the same question in 5 also. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Sannyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karau Ubau. Nishreyasa Karav Ubau. Sandhi. Karau Ubau. Tayoho tu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Visishyate. So he says, both are good. See how he just dismisses his question by confusing it even more. He says, both are good. Sannyasah Karma Yogascha Nishreyasaha Karau. Both are capable of providing you that shreyas that you are asking. However, then in the second line he changes the gear. He says, however, Tayoho, amongst the two, this is a Dvivachana. So, amongst the two, Tayoho, two, right? Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Visishyate. Right? He says, both are good. However, let me tell you, if you have to choose between karma sannyas and karma yoga, please choose karma yoga which is good for you. So he just dismissed him and brought him back to where he wanted to bring him with this shloka. Right? Then he says, Jnana saha nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Please understand him to be a sannyasi. So he never said sannyasi must have a certain color of a dress. He should do, sannyasam natu mundanam, na kashayam na mundanam. It's not, answering the head or wearing a particular color of a dress or having a follower or having a mata. None of that. He never brought. In fact, throughout this chapter, throughout all the 18 chapters, you will not find that description at all. It's not there. So he says, who is Nitya Sannyasi? He's saying, who is that person who is ever a sannyasi? He says, who does not have dvesha, who does not have kanksha, who does not get stuck into the world of duality. Bhagavad Gita is all about world of duality from the 14th shloka in chapter 2 up to the last shloka in chapter 18. The only message, it looks like life character development is very simple. Cross the world of duality. There is a world of duality. Good, bad, success, failure, I like, I don't like. This is okay, this is not okay. He says you can be stuck. He says that's what happens. You will get stuck if you are in this paradigm. So he is a Nitya Sannyasi who is able to handle both. Neither aversion nor desire. It's a situation, it's a very strange situation which we have to actually visualize. So he says, Jnana saha nitya sannyasi, yaha na dveshti na kankshati, nirdvandvaha. Which means there is an existence of duality. You don't take cognizance of it. Nirdvandvaha. You want to step beyond the world of duality. That is what he is talking about. Nirdvandvaha hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Because as long as we work in the world of good and bad, see, this good is not very good, please understand. Because asking for too much good is preparing for a bad. We have no idea. It's only two sides of the same coin. He says don't look for the coin. The moment you look for only good things and say I don't want bad things, that's a very unsustainable idea. You are actually tied. So the only way you liberate yourself is to take both. Let both come. Take it. So the only way you can liberate from the bandha, the rope that is tying you, is the world of duality. If you are able to little bit unbundle yourself from the world of duality, the rope will go. So that is what he is saying. See, the point is, there are, in fact, this shloka alone, for an hour or two we can actually talk. I'm quickly going on a march past now. I don't want to get detailed, but understand this. A person who is, what is Krishna trying to say? A person who is able to differentiate between work and renunciation is a measure of immaturity. Person who is matured will cease to see the effect of work. That is what we saw in chapter 2, that's what we saw in chapter 3, we saw in chapter 4. As long as we are able to see work and then getting away from work, it's a clear indication I am a work in progress now. I have not reached the level of maturity. That is why he said, while both are good, you are not ripe enough. Because I am still seeing work is different from renunciation. A very seasoned person is one, for him work does not do anything to him. Work and renunciation has merged. There is still a dvandva he is seeing here. He is talking about nirdvandva. This is another type of dvandva. There is something called work, there is something called we can escape from work, or not escape, we can liberate from work. All these are intermediary stages in understanding. So the very question itself shows he is immature. The very question, should I do karma or should I do karma sannyasa, itself has answered to Krishna, because he says you are still not understood. Because if you have understood, you would have never asked this question. You know that the domain of karma falls, and what remains is what is called, that's what he is actually getting in. So in a way, this question itself is a measure that Arjuna is in a certain state of evolution. That's why he is asking this question. We'll see a couple of shlokas and then strengthen this idea.
So when somebody is free from the world of dualities, you have the free will to choose between right and wrong, and you have the discernment to know which is right and wrong, right? So if somebody is free from dualities, how can they evolve? How can they,
Actually, right and wrong is another definition of duality. So actually the notion of right and wrong will also go. So that question will go. Right and wrong is in the notion of duality. Right and wrong is very relative, Sridevi. I don't know, is there an absolute meaning to right and wrong?
Sir, if there is no absolute means, you go and steal, and according to you it is right. But somebody whom you are stolen from, for that person it is wrong. But then if you look from an absolute standard, stealing is stealing. If you take the right of somebody, for example, somebody is raping somebody, you actually are taking the right of that person to be who they are, So from that person's perspective, since he has the power to do it, he is doing it, he or she is doing it.
Correct.
But this person is ripped off their their basic rights. So if you consider relatives, the doer feels that can justify, can go to India.
No, the very spirit of the whole argument, you actually come to the central issue. Kauravas are doing all nonsense. Arjuna is not willing to stand up. Now Krishna is saying, you are so bothered about this right and wrong that this imagination stretches you too far. So if you understand that every situation measures a certain response to be given, you have to do it. This moment, the right and wrong that we are all talking is from a measure of judgment, it is coming from that. Every situation measures a certain response, it has to be given. That's not called right. The right and wrong that you use, the way I have understood and the way I replied, is from a judgmental plane. That judgmental plane.
Krishna says that there is so much of injustice that the Kauravas had done to the Pandavas, that you have to give them back. You have to establish justice. That's what he says. So where is that justice and injustice? It is from an absolute thing, right? You cannot have, because then the Kauravas would say, according to me, I was not unjust,
Yeah.
Unjust. But whereas from the Pandavas' perspective, it was not right what was done to them.
Yeah, so I think the same issue we visited last time. So the notion, many of these definitions of desire, definitions of right and wrong are all to be measured from the. I gave a similar expression last time when the question about desire came. It is a common good. For example, I gave an example. The example that I want all the poor people to get educated is never called desire. It's never called desire. So the notion of right, wrong, desire are all in a plane of duality. So there is an absolute plane also. In the plane of duality, you cannot get stuck into right and wrong. For desire, in the plane of duality has a certain meaning, right? Which can be dharma aviruddha. Anything which is against dharma are all bad. So the wrong is also anything. So the absolute that you are talking about is that dharma. So if you raise to that level, this question of right and wrong will not come. They are all at a lower level. These are all the vyavahara level. At a higher level, it doesn't apply. You respond to the situation and go. Because what is in it for me is not there, it doesn't affect you. That is a perspective from which this right and wrong are all being talked about. That duality and all must vanish at that level.
In fact, if you have crossed the duality, there are no two people. There's only oneness. So what are we talking right and wrong? That's the state of reality. If you have crossed the duality, there is only oneness.
We are running away from reality. We are running away from reality.
No. So the point is, that is why this entire discussion we have to understand. In fact, there are some slokas which will create this confusion now. That's why this entire discussion we must understand at two levels. One is called a world of vyavahara, another is called a world of ashraya. In a world of ashraya, for example, there is an 18th sloka. He says, Pandita Samadarshinaha. Everything is same. Now, please don't bring this argument and take 1 kilogram of stone and then cook and say, I will eat rice. Rice and stone are equal now. We can't say that. The point is, we have to delineate these arguments. In a world of vyavahara, you are, suppose, that's why I said, if there is a road on which you have to go, there is a notion of right and wrong. In that relative plane, there is no room for any discussion there. The war is belonging to that. But what he is talking about is at a much higher level, you should be able to transcend. You know why you need to transcend there? Then some of these ill effects of do I do this, do I that will be addressed only from that plane. So we are constantly, juggled between both the realities. So this oneness, crossing the world of duality are all in a world of ashraya, which is a larger paradigm in which you have to see the reality. And you need it because these smaller conflicts can only be addressed with that. In the world of vyavahara, you have to respond to a situation. A vyavahara, a world of activity, is governed by rules, vidhi and nisheda. There is no way anybody can cross it. You have to give a measured response. There, if you bring what is in it for you, then it brings those additional wrongs and rights into the system which can be removed. That's the point he is coming, which we will see as we go along. Then he went on and said, Sankhya yoga prutak balaha pravadantina panditaha ekam apyastitaha samyak ubayoho vindate palam. So he says Sankhya. See, the word Sankhya is used for Jnana yoga or what is called vichara. By the sheer intellectual process you discover the oneness. It's called Jnana yoga or Sankhya yoga. So that's a word here. And the yoga here is karma yoga. Through a world of activity, evolving through work, doing work and so on. So Krishna says Sankhya, which is the Jnana yoga, and the yoga, which is the karma yoga, Pritak is separate. He says Balaha. In other words, child. Child is what he says, people who have no understanding. So child does not mean child. It means people who have not understood the concept very well, think both are separate. Sankhya is separate and karma is separate. That is what Pritak Balaha Pravadanti, na Panditaha. A wise person does not say that. A wise person says both will actually are the same. There are two levels of reality is what a wise person will say, whereas an immature person thinks that this is a different method and that's a different method. That's what he says. Ekam api astitaha samyak ubayoho vindate palam. By firmly establishing in one, you can get the benefit which you could have got by both the methods. Is what Krishna is actually trying to say by way of justifying why Panditas have a different view. Right? Then he says, Yat sankyehi prapyate sthanam tat yogaihi api gamyate. That you achieve through Jnana yoga, you can achieve through Karma yoga also. Right? That's what he says. Ekam sankyam cha yogam cha ya pashyati sapashyati. That person who is seeing both as same, indeed sees. Now, let me resolve. There is a bit of a going back and forth here. We'll take a simple example. One person comes to me, he's in the first year of engineering or a second year of engineering, or he is in his 11th, because some people at 12th standard also come and talk to me, and does with some of my colleagues also. Sir, how do I get into IAM? Okay, this is a question. Because everybody think, it's a great question. Now, you know what 99.9% of us will say? We'll say the way to get into IAM, you should go to Times or Career Launcher and launch, get yourself or in Agrawal or something. You go and join for a 1-year course. Then this boy says, no sir, I am told you have to pass CAT, only then you will get into IAM. No, both will get into IAM. See the spirit of this statement. The statement is, a person who is nowhere near, don't tell all that. A person who wants to climb Mount Everest, you tell him this is the way to go to Mount Everest. Actually, the base camp will change 100 times before you go to Mount Everest. If you show the final base camp, you'll go nowhere. Please understand, why is Krishna saying this? Because he has realized there is a lack of maturity here. So the person who has come to 12th standard, don't tell him cat and all that. You tell him, you better go to, you get 90% marks in your whatever, and then go to Career Launcher or Times or something. You keep writing their exams, you will get into CAT. Then he will do it. After a year, in the second year of engineering, he will come and say, sir, what do you think? Maybe you will again say, no, you have to go to Times Career Launcher, you will get into CAT. In the final year, if you see him enough mature, he will say, all those are fine, right? Now you write your CAT properly, you may tell something else. So don't misread these statements. Vedanta is throughout conflicting. That conflict has to be understood correctly. We have to say very conflicting things when people are in evolution. Right? My favorite example is for my daughter when she was 4 years old. I always, she used to teach me. She'll ask me what is 5 plus 3, and then I will pretend not to know. She'll say 5 in the mind, 3 in the hand, after 5, 6, 7, 8. I say wonderful. I say that's the way to know 8. Now I can't tell it when she is in engineering. There is a problem if I say it like that. I'll have to put her in immense or something. But this is very normal. When we are in different state of evolution, we may tell conflicting things. You can look back and laugh at it. You can look back and say, oh, but we'll have the wisdom to know why that was required. That is the method here. So he's saying, yes, both will go there, but you please do this. And because if somebody comes and argues with me, no sir, I think only Times Career Launcher will get me CAT, not get me IIM Bangalore admission, not CAT, they are balaha. Pritak vadanti balaha. That is the meaning. So what Krishna is trying to actually communicate here is, this text is for everyone. That's the greatness of Indian culture. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. All roads lead to me. Depending upon the stage of revolution, I will give you a certain recommendation. Go after it. Have Shraddha. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Ajnanasya ashraddha jnanasya samshayatma vinashyati. Take faith and go. After some time, your faith grows, your understanding grows, your question changes, your recommendation changes. That's life. So that is how we should understand these conflicting kind of recommendations that he is giving here. It is merely an indication that there is a lack of maturity. So give what that person can take. Don't give more than that. That is the spirit of some of these conflicting. There are a lot of conflicting statements you will see in Bhagavad Gita. That's the reason.
One who sees both as one alone sees.
Yeah, but that is very difficult. Some of them will not even make sense. How can you see one in both? We can't. It is, as long as we are arguing, that is an indication we have work to do. Yeah. So in fact, that is why people say, when we more evolved, it becomes silent. The silence is an explanation, which is fine, because this is a process in which we are also, that's an indication of where we are and so on, which is not bad, which is not put down, which is encouraged. That's the way it is. So essentially, karma sannyasa and karma yoga, so by all these shlokas, Krishna is bringing very important ideas, which we should actually appreciate. A mango or banana cannot become a fruit directly. It must be a raw, unripe, and then there is a passage of time, right? There is a saying, you keep on beat the fruit and ripen it or something, right? That's not possible. So there is it is a measure of evolution, right? As I was telling last time, what to choose, enrolling for a doctoral degree in a university or getting PhD? Is not this or that. It's a foolish question actually. So Krishna is saying, by giving up karma, you'll never get sannyas. To get sannyas, the path is you go through karma and discover the world of duality, discover the world of duality, find out how to manage the world of duality, how to transcend the world of duality. Now the gates are opening. There are no shortcuts to go straight over there, because in chapter 3 we said nobody evolves without doing work. Nobody can run away. So it is not escape, it's face. So this question is nonsense. There is no question like should I do this or do that. That is the process and this is the end. Karma yoga is a process, karma sannyasa is the end. That is the message he is getting by putting both and then just pushing it aside. So action must be pursued and renunciation must be attained. You cannot ask for renunciation. Renunciation is a way of life in which you evolve. He is asking, please get me renunciation. You can't get renunciation. You should become renunciated over a period of time. That must happen like this fruit which is ripening on its own, for which it needs a passage of time and whatever. Same thing. Action must be pursued. Renunciation must be attained as an outcome of that.
So can they be parallel?
Actually, this is, as I told last time again, attaining renunciation is just like the status changing from 0 to 1. It's like, am I sleeping? There is nothing like sleeping. Once you slept, there is a discontinuity. Until then you are trying to sleep. Once you are slipping to the deep sleep, until a millisecond before that you have not slept. Either you are dreaming or some disturbances are affecting you. Moment the sound sleep comes, people can start making sound, nothing happens to you. So that is the point of division. So renunciation is a state of attainment, which is a state. In electronic terms, the circuit changes from here to there, 0 to 1. This is a discrete variable and that is a process. So there is nothing like simultaneous. It's a process preparing for the state change. Right? So the end is renunciation. Means cannot be renunciation, which is what Arjuna is asking. Means is not renunciation, only the end is renunciation, which is what Krishna is trying to push. So we cannot confuse between the state of being and the process of being. State is a discrete state. It reaches or it doesn't reach. But in order to reach, there are certain conditions which will make it to happen. And the circuitry changes just like that. That's the meaning of state. Na? So we cannot confuse between state of being and the process of being. So karma yoga, which is the message in this chapter. Karma yoga is the process of being. Karma sannyas is the state of being. Once that happens, all questions will dissolve. Everything will disappear. And we need to really understand it as an experience. We must have something to renounce in the first place. How can you renounce without having something? Which is what Krishna is saying. Try everything in your life. Start renouncing your cell phone. Start renouncing a little bit of your personal space. Then let us talk about bigger renunciation. Renounce your ego a little bit. Let's try all that and then let's talk about some bigger things.
So then the gradual renunciation occurs along with the action being pursued.
No, it's all process. They are not real renunciation. They are all, you're walking into it, your own point. Sthita prajna. These are all temporary peeping and coming back. You never stay there. You just go peep and come back. So they are all part of the process, not the state. It's a transient, not a steady state. Yeah? So sannyasa is not a lifestyle at all. It is a state of mind. Sannyasa in this chapter you can understand is actually a state of mind, not a lifestyle. Sometimes lifestyle can help in a world of a physicality. Sometimes it can help to give you a little bit of a other protective from a few things. Beyond that it serves no purpose. So we don't necessarily need all that. It is actually a state of mind, which is what? So he talks about the state of mind in the chapter. So in the name of sannyasa he is only talking about what state of mind. Through work, how do you attain that state of mind is the subject matter in chapter 5.
One who has attended already the renunciation, he does the karma only by happy karma.
Yes, he does. We'll see that. How he will do, last few slokas will talk about it. He will do without the world of duality affecting him. That's why a sannyasi will never run away from work. None of them will bother him. Indriyani indriyarteshu vartante iti ma. This is in shloka in chapter 3 also. Here also you will see. All the world of stimulus and response are all part of these bells and whistles I have called karma indriyas and jnana indriyas. It will not affect me anymore. He will go to that level. So he will continue to work. Nothing will bother him. See, our problem is that middle part, na? Krishna says, remove it, you become a sannyasi. Remove the middle part. Things are affecting you. Address that problem. That is true sannyasi is what. Arjuna is getting affected by the rights and wrongs in a world of Vyavahara. That's why he says, address it, then you will not bother about rights. You transcend right and wrong in that sense. It will not affect you anymore. That's the idea. It's a state of mind. So, detachment of oneself from the effects of actions, not giving up action. That's why in chapter 18 he talks about karma phala tyaga, not karma tyaga. Finally he concludes by saying karma phala tyaga. Real sannyasi is karma phala tyaga, which means you cannot run away from work. But you can run away from the effects of work and the benefits of work. Karma phala tyaga, not karma tyaga. Here he is asking about karma tyaga. He says no. Right? It's all about keeping the sense organs, sense objects, indriyani, indriyartha. Right? They will all play around, but it will not affect me. We will not really understand what that state, because they're all matter of experience. You can keep reading it and imagining, will something happen to me, and try one day, slowly. That's all we can do actually. But we can get a little sense of what they are talking. That much we can go.
Keeping the sense away.
Sense objects. Sense means sense organs, sense objects. In that sense.
So, but one thing, so when we don't get affected by right and wrong, how can we, empathize with somebody who is going through some kind of injustice? And how can we stand against injustice if we are not affected?
No, I think you are really missing the point. If there is some injustice, there is something happening which requires a certain response from you, there are 1,000 reasons you and I are not responding today. You know why? Oh, why should I? This will get back onto me. It is very risky. Why am I doing it? Let somebody will do it. God will help him. We'll have 1,000 reasons. By means of all these, what it means is, all these will go. You will very naturally respond. So empathy and are all for the middle level argument. All those terms you can now delete. Now Narayan and Krishna says, I saw a person on the gutter, right? And eating his own human ways. He said, I quit my job and then I cooked. There is no empathy. We may try to put some words and say he empathizes, and it is not that according to me. He is very naturally responding to it. He is not bringing all these variables into it. The moment you bring all these variables into it, I don't know which way it will go. The guarantee that 100% of the time we will respond appropriately to the situation is not there. So this nirdvandva will get you there. And that is an experience which we have to think and respond. Empathy and all will be part of it. When it is not there, we have to bring all this vocabulary and then force you into it. A situation requires a certain response in the world of Vyavahara. Can I respond? If somebody can respond 100% of the times, for 100% of the situation in what is considered to be appropriate, he may fit into the definition of sannyas. And in order to do that, first you have to do away this world of duality, because that will come and bother you in many ways. The world of duality is a very powerful weapon which will work with your brain, with your buddhi, and start processing. That's what many are not able to do. Why am I not able to do? He is able to do. Because I have not reached there yet. Why did this Baba Amte, who saw while he was carrying night soil, he thought there was a dead body in the gutter, and it was actually a person with leprosy. Why did he give up everything and then pulled him out of the gutter, and then Anandavan is a very big thing today? Why somebody else did not do it? He is very close to sannyas. It is not empathize. We will put all that vocabulary and write stories. My own reading is not that. His propensity to respond to the appropriateness of situation is very high. It's all degree. Maybe it is very high. That is true sannyas. That is the notion of sannyas. So in order to do that, as long as we have a world of duality, we will have difficulty. 100% guarantee is not there. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has a parable, very nice parable. in which he talks about 4 types of fishes. See, greatness of Ramakrishna literature is he talks about only what you see. The life experiences, full of life experience. He doesn't bring anything from anywhere. So he says when you cast a net and try to catch a fish, he says there are 4 types of fishes. Okay? First set of fishes, very intelligently they slip away from the net. This is one type of fishes. Maybe some of them are like that. Right? Intelligently avoiding the net. There are some which having got stuck into the net, it tries its level best to escape. Okay? So that is called fishes successfully jumping, and maybe 1 or 2 succeed also. They, jump, and then there is another variety. The other is they try but then did not succeed. Right? 1 Janma is over. That is the equivalent of 1 Janma. You make an effort and then it will continue, don't worry, kind of a thing. Right? And then there are some who are very, eminently, joyfully get caught into the net, not knowing they are dead and they are getting cooked or something like that. Yeah? Yeah. So he uses equivalent words here. He says, Nitya Muktas are those who have, so their buddhi, they are the Panditas. They are the ones for whom the sense of discrimination is up 24/7. Sthita Prajna, what you use, all the 100% of the time, they are always alert, and the Vichara and that Viveka is up and running all the time. They are the Nitya Muktas. Muktas are those who are all peeping in and peeping out. The proportion of the time when you are able to respond to a situation slowly increases. That means there is a chance of this thing developing. Right?
They got out of the net.
Huh?
Mukta is also got out of the net. Right?
Yes, but they got stuck in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
That's the point there. So there is a peeping in and peeping out. Right? Then these are people who are making effort. So that's how it is. So I think all of us are at different stages. So this whole thing is a work in progress. So the prescriptions are to be taken in that plane of understanding. So this parable also explains why we are all at different stages of our own evolution, which is very natural. So he goes on talking about many of these attributes. I will touch only a few of them. He says, Naiva kenchit karomi iti. Yeah.
Lord Krishna has told Arjuna to get away from the world of duality. To get away from the world of duality. And he told how to get away from the world of duality.
Yes.
It is very easy to say to get away from what is wrong, what is right, all this is just present mistakes. But how to understand all these things and how to apply all these things?
Yeah. In fact, sir, nowhere in the world people will say how to get into IAM, but it will never say how. They will say you write cat, you do this. Why I am telling this? You will find nowhere in the world. Swaprayatna is very, very important. There is only a body of knowledge. You have to get convinced. You have to put your effort. You have to slog for it. The rule applies here also. Of course, there are some pieces you will see here, but all of them.
Very confusing.
No, it will be confusing. Yeah, initially it will be confusing, and it needs much longer effort and understanding. But there is no cookbook. It's not step 1, then tick it. Step 2, tick. 10th step you are in Mumuksha. That is movies they will show.
What are the steps?
Yeah, they are there. There are many of them. As you go through the remaining 15 chapters, you will find a hell of a lot of them. There are a lot of them. As we see, we can reflect on many of those. But one thing I want you to understand, self-evolution cannot be outsourced. And it comes only through anubhuti, only through experience. It's a very serious issue. Nobody can evolve without experience, and my experience is of no use for you. Your experience is of no use for him.
Certain actions to get that.
Yeah, so they are all there. They are all there. There are a set of ideas. And again, you see, the ideas, it will appeal X to me, it will appeal Y to you, X percentage. That makes a difference. No? It appeals Y percentage to you, it appeals Z percentage to somebody. So that's the journey on which we will go. Yes, sir.
Ramakrishna, the previous part, the net, who cast the net?
It's the Divine Mother. It's what. Yeah, I put it as a. It's at the. Anyway, so the point is, I think many of such ideas are there. We need to reflect. We need to get convinced. We need to invest, and perhaps we need to go through those experiments. But there are some ideas here and there.
Many of the Hindu ideologies I know heard this kind of things. We have to get rid of this kind of things. We have to get away from these things, that thing. But how to get things? This is not described anywhere.
No, it is no religion nowhere in the world. That's what I am saying. I mean, you cannot say by writing cat you can. I mean, any amount of description of how to write cat and win will also be of not much use. Only up to a point it will be used. Please understand this issue.
Can you explain one or two of these steps?
Keep coming forward to my classes. I can't jump because continuity will be lost. Yeah. Yeah.
Jnana yoga.
We have, there are a lot of them, but anyway, you can, as you go along, you will find some of them. So, naiva kinchit karomi iti yuktaha manyate tattvavit. So, the first thing he says is, a person who is an yukta, who is a very composed person, who cannot be disturbed that easily, whose peace of mind cannot be disturbed that easily, and who is a tattvavit, he understood the tat padartha, that essence of everything. What does he think? He thinks, I am not doing anything. So the I here is the deeper I. So the problem is, the moment we say I have to solve all the problem, it has two meanings. One meaning is a practical sense. We may say I have to do the problem. As long as it remains at a practical sense, it's all right. Actually, it penetrates so deep and says I have to fix my promotion. If you go to that level of I have to find a way of getting my promotion, and somehow by hook or crook you will start fixing it and you don't know which way you will go, and it can bring a whole lot of complicated stuff in front of you. The I has to be very, very carefully understood. The I can be used only to the extent of putting efforts. In terms of the fruits that are coming, if you put too much I into it, life can be very challenging. We'll have to walk through it and see what it is. So when he says na kinchit karomi iti, what it means is I will put the best foot forward, but there are many other things that are happening. In that thing, things are happening. That itself will relieve a lot of tension from us. Otherwise, we can be quite challenged in life. We can be very challenged in life if we put everything onto our head. It's not a great idea. That's one way to understand this. There are deeper ideas also anyway. So, he explains part of it with these three lines. To just explain what he is saying. He is saying, Pashyan, Shrunvan, Sprishan, Jihran, Ashran, Gachan, Sopan, Shwasan, Pralapan, Visrijan, Grinnan, Unmishan, Nimishan api. He gives a few examples. Examples of what karmendriyas do and what jnanendriyas do. Pashyan, seeing. Right? Shrunvan, hearing. These are all these 5 sense organs. Right? Sprishan, touching. Right? And Jihran, smelling. Right? And Ashnan. Ashnan is eating. Okay? Sopan is sleeping. Shwasan is breathing. Correct? Pralapan, talking. Visrijan, discharging. Visrijan, and Grinnan, taking. Right? Unmishan, nimishan. See, it's very simple. If you think you are doing everything by yourself, you are only doing all that, logically death is impossible. You have to control, no? You have to decide when I should stop doing. Nobody wants to die. That's the last thing. If there is a way I can run away from death, from Purana always there is a lot of stories only talking this. Nobody wants to die. So if nobody wants to die, yet all of them stop one day, that's a simple logic saying I am not doing. If I am doing, then I will have to decide when to switch off. Looks like there is something wired through me. Even if you want to go logically in that, in Yaksha Prashna, there are some 39 questions. Dharma, Yama Dharma was. See, there are 4 great pieces in Mahabharata. They are called real 4 great pieces. One is Bhagavad Gita, which is in Mahabharata. Another is called Viduraniti. That's again about 700 shlokas in Mahabharata. And then there is something called Yaksha Prashna, about and odd shlokas. Then there is something else, Sanat Sujatiya. These 4 are great pieces. So one of them is Yaksha Prashna. So there he asks, what is the greatest wonder of the world? There are many questions like that. So he says, Ahanyahani Bhutani Gachanti Yamalayam Seshaha Stavaram Ichanti Kimascharyam Atapparam. Ahanyahani, every day. Ahas is day. Ahanyahani Bhutani Gachanti Yamalayam. Every day people are packed off in the name of death. Right? Ahanyahani Bhutani Gachanti Yamalayam. Seshaha, balance. People like us who are still not packed off yet. Right? Seshaha Stavaram Ichanti. Firmness, stira. Stavara is, plants are called stavara because they don't move, no? Firmness. The rest of the people do everything in life to make sure I will not go away. If that is true, then all these that I should be doing. When you say I am not doing, it is acknowledging the fact that the I that you are talking about has to be questioned. Which I you are talking? If you are talking about lower I, then that statement is wrong. This statement is only right. There is a bigger I which is doing, the smaller I is only reacting to it. So all these smellings, all these will stop. Moment a particular person likes a particular sweet. As soon as he is dead, please go and give him a sweet here. Let us see whether he enjoys the sweet, opens his mouth and then opens his eyes. Nothing. If you want, you can do all that. So what will happen to all these? Where is it going? The point he is making is that truth is one level of truth. If you search through that truth, it will give you a practical sense of detachment, which means you do all that but don't take too much of sense of agency. The sense of agency, na kinchit karomi, doesn't mean I am not doing. What it means is I disassociate the sense of agency for what purpose? Only for the fruit and the effect of it. I am not disassociating the sense of agency for doing. These are all for what happens after you do. That's where all our world of problem lies. Our world of problem does not lie in work. Our world of problem lies after the work is over and the results are coming. That's where our challenge. That's the thing which we have not been able to conquer at all. And if you have to conquer that, you have to say, Na kinchit karomi iti aham. Here it means is, I will do everything with a sense of agency when it comes to work. I will develop a wisdom and grace in which when results come, I will disassociate the sense of agency. Otherwise, we will never be able to manage life. Again, this is an idea which we will have to get up convinced. We will have to agree, not agree, which both ways is alright. We will have to experience it, we have to live through it and find our own wisdom. So, Indriyani, Indriyarteshu Vartante iti dharayan. All these are working. There is a larger force which is operating. I am also one of them as part of it. I will do the best part of it. When a big project work is happening, we are putting up a huge thing in which 100 people are involved. 100 people all of them want to actually participate, and all of them will actually enjoy in the process of creating that wonder. Then there is a greater chance of that happening. If all of them think I am doing, then there is a problem. A very practical way to do it, all of them are doing thinking I am not doing, collectively something is happening and I am part of it, creating that wonder. In life, many things that we do, if we take that approach, this project can become a good project. So that's why Indriyani Indriyarteshu Vartante. I am part of this story. I am also one part of the story. Let's all do and then enjoy and take what comes out of it. That kind of a spirit is what he will actually develop. That is what through work he will find. There is no other way to find this. If you have not found it now, if you have not found it for the next 40 years, you need another 4,000 years to find it. Krishna says only through work you will find it. There is no other way. You cannot read and find it. Please don't read thousands of pages about what is sugar, chemical properties, physical properties and all that you read. But take some sugar and put it onto your mouth. Only then you know what is sweetness. And reading will give you only a certain kind of knowledge. Like that, all other ways trying to get all these are only preparing you for that. Jump into it, experience it, and through that evolve. That is what he is trying to get. Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate nasa papena padma patra iva ambasa. Just like this lotus leaf in water, Amba is water, Ambasa is the water, Padma Patra, which is the lotus leaf. Just like the lotus leaf has a lot of water, but it doesn't stick to it. You pull it out, it is perfectly dry. So it coexists. So this is the detached attachment. You attach from a work perspective, detach from the results perspective. Detach the results perspective means you put targets, work, put the best foot, do everything. When results come, show grace and take it. You can be better in life. If you jump up and down, I did so much, I did not get it, this fellow spoiled it, that fellow spoiled it. Whether he spoiled it or not, you spoiled your health. And you'll go to some hospital, BP, EP, executive health checkup. We also organize every 2 years we should go and then check whether things are all right. That is the point. Can you stay in the world? Be very actively engaged in the world. Yet when the results come, show as though you are very disinterested. Such people are very wise. That is the point he is making here. And they are Brahmani Adaya. They are resident in that ultimate truth called Brahman. That's a way to get anchored in that truth, because these distractions will go away. You will enjoy doing and then develop grace of taking. Doing and taking are two parts. Brahmani Adaya Karmani Sangam Tyaktva. So this attachment, what is in it for me? I put so much, so much will come back, has to come back to me. Put and take. Things will come. I think some of the greatest discoveries will all fit into this. If these guys are all the time saying I did so much and I have to get so much back and so on, I don't think they would have had really any great discoveries, because they would have been worn out by failures that they would have seen. I mean, all these Nobel laureates, there are 30 years, 20 years of hard work. It doesn't happen just like that. And it's much easy to compress all of them in a few pages and discuss, write 1-page article and a half a page interview and all that. I don't think that's the way. True work actually evolves. It builds that kind of excellence and which flowers one day. And just it comes off. So that's the only way. I don't see any shortcuts in that. There's so much of shortcuts which we teach in our management. They are okay. They are at one level. But I think true excellence is something which develops. It's a way of life. It's a certain kind of inner fire which grows in you. That shows up.
Even in business, it's like that only. If you apply all the financial techniques when you want to start the business will never go even beyond 2 days.
You slog.
No, it's gone.
Yuktah karma palam tyaktva shantim apnoti naishtikim. Ayuktah kamakarena pale sakto nibadyate. He says, who is a yukta and who is a ayukta? He has talked about it in several places. In the past, in chapter 2 also, we have seen 1 or 2. Here he gives one more definition. He says, who is yukta? Who is a very composed and a person who is no conflict, completely in rhythm with nature. Karma palam tyaktva shantim. Karma palam tyaktva. Put the best effort. When things go a little this way, that way, take it and go. That is the method of karma palam tyaktva. I mean, it is not by saying, even when I start working, I am not looking, and people understand it very differently. Karma palam tyaktva, people think you start working saying, I don't want any result. It's not that. There is no way you will work if you do that. It's not that. It is saying, I want targets, I want results, I will put the best forward, but when actual reality unfolds, what am I doing? Am I taking or am I jumping up and down? If you are taking with folded hands, that is called karma palam tyaktva. Karma palam tyaktva means whatever pala I will take. It doesn't mean I will take no pala. It means it is a measure of dimension of irrelevance when the time of the results fructifying. No way it will come in the way of my putting my work. No way it will come in the way of putting my best foot forward. That's the meaning of karma. People simply translate it. I also must have translated it in, with forsaking fruit. In English you have to, otherwise it becomes one sloka. I will write some 10 pages here. There is an economic problem. Book will become 20,000 pages. Nobody will buy, nobody will print. That's why you can't do all that. You have to really interpret it. So karma pala tyaga is not saying when I start, no, I am not working for any result. I will simply work. Nobody can work like that. It's not that. Karma pala tyaga means a dimension of fruits when it fructify will not affect me. A person who is in that state is called karma pala tyagi. He is a yukta. He will get shanti.
Do you actively participate in working, fixing your targets? What is it?
Yeah, absolute. Sir, you do everything to achieve what you want to achieve. But have the grace to take what it comes. Who said everything will happen the way you thought? This is our problem today. We think I have put effort and it has to happen only that way. If it doesn't happen, I go haywire. I lose all my sense and my health and my peace of mind. That's where we are. I think you do everything until the point of results coming. Show grace and wisdom when results come. Only the last part. Simple. I think we must endeavor everything. We must endeavor. Pakka. Then only you will get shantihi apnoti. Whereas ayukta, what will happen? Ayukta kamakarena, his desire overpowers everything. Pala sakta, he is always looking at the fruits. Then I don't know which way I will go. I will start one thing, it will branch into 100 things, and I have wound actually rope over me, and then I have reached a stage. That you see much later. You don't see it immediately. These are all over time. You get into a mess, you don't know how to get out of it. This kama is, this desire is a desire which is saying, fixing too much into what is in it for me even before you start. That can be very destructive from a personality. Now, in two Upanishads, the same text so beautifully talks about what happens somebody who can transcend the world of kama. In Taittiriya Upanishad and in Brihadaranya Upanishad, same passage is there. Also, it's a beautiful passage. I want to utter that passage and tell you. There's a number up to 10 power 24 or something is there. I'll quickly read it and tell you. It's a nice, beautiful passage. It talks about this Upanishad. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad. It first describes what is one unit of happiness. First you have to start, some measure you have to start, and then 10 power 2, 10 power 2. That's how the whole shloka is. I will read it with swara because it's so beautiful to hear it also. With swara I will read it, so that once in a while I want to read some Upanishad also to you. Right? It says, Saishanandasya mima gumsa bhavati yuva syat sadhu yuva dhyayakah asishto dridishto balishtaha tasyayam prithvi sarva vittasya purna syat. Now sayeko manusha anandah. Let this be one unit of happiness for one person. And what is that? He says this is an inquiry about Ananda. He says this chapter or this section, that's how the Upanishad starts. This section is about what is this measure of happiness. That is this. Yuva syad, let him be young. He is describing a person. Yuva, he can be young. Sadhu, he can be a nice person with good endowment of good qualities, good value systems and so on. Adhyakaha, one who is well read. Okay, so there are three definitions. Asishtaha, right, well endowed with wealth. Dridishtaha, healthy. Balishtaha, very valorous also. So here is a person who is young, who is well read, who is well endowed with wealth, endowed with health, endowed with dhairya and all those. Tasya ayam yam prithivihi sarva. Let him own the whole Prithvi. Vittasya purna syat. Let him have the fullness of Vitta. Right? Sayeko manusha ananda. So the Upanishad starts by saying, let there be a person who is young, age is on his side, well read, has a lot of money, he has dhairya, his health is alright, he has so much of wealth with him, he owns a vast empire. Let all that be one unit of happiness. That's how the argument starts. Teye shatam manusha ananda. Then you think of 100 multiplied by 10 power 2. Shatam manusha ananda. Suppose you multiply it by 100. Right? Sayeko manushya gandharvanam ananda. If 100 such quantity of becomes the happiness of one manushya gandharva. There are different entities being described here. Okay? Sayeko manushya gandharvanam anandah shrotriyasya chakamah tasya shrotriyaha cha akamaha tasya. One who is desireless. Kamahatana, akamahata. This will repeat several times. That is a link here. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te yeshatam manushya gandharvanam anandah. Now you multiply it by another 100. Sa eko deva gandharvanam anandah. That is the equivalent of happiness for the next person called deva gandharva. Right? Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya. That is the equivalent of this person. This person will come again and again. Okay?
Oh, is also equal to this.
Te ye shatam deva gandharvanam anandah sa eka pitrinam chiraloka lokanam anandah. Another entity. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam pitrinam chiraloka lokanam anandah sa eka ajana janam devanam anandah. One more entity. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam ajana janam devanam anandah sa eka karma devanam anandah ye karmana devana piyanti. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam karma devanam anandah sa eko devanam anandah. The so-called deva is much higher in this order in whatever scheme they are talking. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam devanam anandah sa eka indrasya anandah. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam indrasya anandah sa eko brihaspatera anandah. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam brihaspatera anandah sa eka prajapatera anandah. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya te ye shatam prajapatera anandah sa eko brahmana anandah. Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya. This exact passage is there in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Exact, verbatim. So what he is actually saying in this is, they are saying a person, I mean, these are all dramatized way of actually telling. We should not worry actually whether such people exist. I mean, this is a rational way of understanding. Don't waste your time. Don't do a research. I mean, if you want to get a PhD, some university, they will do all that. Don't do all that. We are not interested in all that. The point that is being made here is by exaggerating to such a level of 10 power 21, I mean, essentially what are they saying? The power of desirelessness is very high. That is the point. The crux of the matter lies there. Desire can wrangle us in all ways, and that desireness is what is yukta in that shloka. And that desire is the ayukta. So I brought this just to connect this to this shloka. This kamakarena is, we don't know how it works. We have to reflect on these shlokas. We will have to really reflect on these shlokas, know how this such a simple idea can really wind you into a lot of things that you are doing, and how this idea should we try, where should we start, how do we experiment. These are all how to, but then part of it is with us. We will have to now agree, we can disagree, and very blissfully we can also very silently we can say, oh, all these are fine, but let's go on, which is also fine. So that's how it is. So all Upanishads, all places, this is very strongly being discussed. Then comes a very...
Here one is Taittiriya or Pranadara?
This is Taittiriya. This is from Taittiriya.
This is one sloka.
This is one Anuvaka, one sub-chapter. It's in the second chapter in Anandavalli. See, Taittiriya has three: Sikshavalli, Anandavalli, and Brahmanandavalli. In Anandavalli, there are, I think, 8 chapters, 8 Anuvakas. This is the culminating. After this, there is a nice pancha this thing, and then it ends.
It's all one mantra or complete?
This is one mantra. I have to say without. One shot. I have to say. I just stopped in between. I have to keep this one paragraph. I have to say in one shot. Anyway, then comes another interesting idea which I think is very practically relevant again. Look at what Krishna is saying here. He says, Na kartrutvam, na karmani. I have quoted it many times in the past. Na kartrutvam, na karmani lokasya srijati prabhuhu, na karma pala sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Krishna says, this God gives results and all are again, these are all conflicting statements now, because at one level that's how you have to teach. That's the way to start for a child. But if you end your life thinking God gives, that means we are still in LKG of development. We have to move to the next. We will be told something when we are 2 years. At 5 years, let us evolve. I find only in spirituality people refuse to evolve. In everything they want to evolve. In spirituality, they want to preserve those 4 or 5 ideas at a certain age and keep on stuck with it until they go to the end. It's not like that. Every thing must evolve. No? So what he says here, na kartrutvam, na karmani, na karma pala sanyogam. He says, not the sense of agency. Kartrutva is agency, na? Right? The work and the effect. There are only three things. There is an agent, there is a work, and there is a result. I put effort, I engaged in some work, some result came. This is where our challenge is. He says all the three keep me off. Na srijati prabhuhu. He says God is not doing any of this. He is only created an enabling framework and left it to you. Swabhavastu pravartate. You brought your raw material. You brought a certain thing. And with that you engage. I only created an atmosphere. That's why when the heavens open and the heavens pour, I prepared this ground. I get good agricultural produce out of it. My neighbor did not do anything. It's full of, unwanted things. He'll end up spending money clearing it. Heavens open and pour. There is no difference. It just opens and then Varuna Bhagavan just brings down. Are you prepared? What did you do? If you are not prepared, you will not get anything. That's what Krishna is actually saying. What is that preparation? That comes through Swabhava. I talked about it in one of the earlier things also. How do you develop this Vyaktitva which is of a certain thing? So that is what he says. Then he says, he wants to make it even clear. He says, Nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukritam vibhuhu. This idea that God gives papa and punya are all LKG of understanding. In Bhagavad Gita, he doesn't say that. He says, even there I am not there. You reap and you take and go. I only enable. I create conditions. You walk in, you sow the seed and take and go. Now you can have a bit of divinity. Kripa may be there. The condition can be a little more favorable to you. See, 100 people tried. Narayan Swami clicked. Dakshinamurthy clicked. Because they brought a very similar intelligence. The conditions were a little bit enabling, supporting. Lot of good entrepreneurs have fallen by the gutter. Doesn't mean they were no great, only Dakshinamurthy is great. It so happened that, it was a little bit conducive. That conducive part is called Kripa. That is called, Guru Kripa or, whatever you want to say. Some divine grace is that enabling framework that can be the additional. But then that alone is not necessary, sufficient. You have to bring both. But you put your effort, and this divine grace can make the condition a little more favorable. Finally, it can happen. So he says, Nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukam. Sukrit. So good and bad and all also I am not giving. Ajnanena avritam jnanam tena mukhyanti jantava. See, this whole thought that there is somebody sitting and handing you down your favors or punishing you and all that are ajnana. You are all camouflaged with that. The more you peel, you will see the light. You understand, you become responsible for what you do. You sow the seed, take the benefit, then you walk on a different path. Rather than thinking somebody is giving instruction, you are only a puppet. So he's talking about free will. This is a shloka about free will. It says, you please, endure. I will also create a little bit of, there is of course, Daivam cha atra panchamam, chapter 18 he says, there is a fifth element which is there. But there are 4 elements on your side. Fifth element is Daivam. That is a divine grace which is always there. But that alone is not enough. This alone is not enough. All of them has to get together. So we can have both. That's what he says in these 2 shlokas. So the point is, why are we responsible and not the Almighty? Because of these. I do the action, not the Almighty. I engage, I respond to situations with my free will, with my notion of what is right, wrong. I am in a state of duality. All those are part of it. I do action. I have the freedom of choice. Correct? I have the freedom to change my nature. The Swabhava can be changed. That's also with me. I can take others' help. The effort is inside. Effort finally is inside. I have the freedom to change. I have the capacity to alter my nature and actions. So who should know one? So I have all this thing. But you say somebody else is going to give. When I have all the ability to do things, you say result, somebody is giving. Nobody accepts to that argument anyway. It's a simple argument in any case. That is what Krishna is anyway saying. He is saying, therefore, the focus must be, can I bring the right raw material? Can I make the right choice? Can I make an effort to change the choices and the type of responses that I make? The appropriateness to the situation, am I making responses? Can I do it? The more I do it, I will get the benefit out of it. And that is, of course, that doesn't mean God is not there. The fifth element is there. There is a bit of a grace. But to put everything on the other side is not a great idea. And to say everything I will do is also very challenged. So understand the roles and do it is what he is actually trying to suggest these shlokas. Yeah.
So when you talk about I have the capacity to alter my nature and actions, I think all of us want to do good at the end of the day, right? We decide we want to do something good, but at the end of the day we see we end up doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So how do we change?
Okay, I'll give an answer for that. I'll take only examples we can very easily relate. I'll give my own personal example. I wanted to write cat. All of us wanted to write cat. Why did you get and I did not? I never passed cat. I have never come anywhere near IIM. Why? Because his idea that I want to write cat is just a very elementary idea. Now what should I do? I have to change my habit. I have to be very conscious of it. I should say if I have to write cat, I have to find 3 hours a day, maybe 4 hours a day. I have to find the right kind of books. I have to find the right kind of company with whom I should actually exchange notes. Maybe I should find the right teacher with whom I never invested on any of that. Whereas you invested. Now how did you change? Because you change, because this thought first grew stronger in you, it didn't grow stronger in me. It never grew stronger in me. I also said I want to do good, I want to change my nature, but that was a lip service. So the catch there is, the thought must first get stronger. If the thought gets stronger, it will lead you to satsanga. This is called satsanga. Seeing the right kind of people who are all preparing for cat is called satsanga for cat. Right? Getting the right notes, going to the right person, it's called getting the right guru. This is how we do, no? It's no different. So the starting to all that is, this thought should get very stronger in your mind. And for some people it does get stronger. Forget about cat. People say, people have this habit of writing a New Year resolution. Right? Now, about less than 1% actually do it, the remaining 99.5% don't. Why? Because the thought is not stronger. It is stronger on 1st January. By 12 o'clock it's over for some people. For some people by evening 2 o'clock it is over. Something like that. It's no different. So the point is, changing nature is exactly that. So if the thought gets stronger, I keep right company. I invest on what I should do. I start reading a certain kind of thing. I find time to do that in addition. I don't give up this and do that. These are all the seriousness. These are all shown only by your action. And the action is guided by the strength of your thought. So the starting point for all, that's why Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasa is what Bhagavad Upanishad says. You get an idea. The idea on the face of it may look alright. But then that will take us nowhere. Then you do manana, which is the thought must grow stronger. And how does the thought grow stronger? Reflect on it, check on it, think about it, think about the pros and cons of it, think about why should I do it. It's all to be done by a person, not by others. In that process we can listen to 100 of them also, but the thought has to grow inside. That's called manana and nididhyasa. Then we are on our way. Same rule. It has to happen only that way, there is no other way.
It means we can become righteous. Righteousness where we do not do anything wrong by our efforts.
Yeah, it is that thought, that meaning, and even that thought grows stronger. The definition of the first step that will happen is the definition of righteousness will get clearer to us. It is not clearer to us because we are not very serious about it. Many things that we say we are not serious. If you look at it in life, why things are happening, we are not serious. And why are we not serious? The thought has not become stronger. Why the thought has not become stronger? We are not spending time repeatedly thinking about it. They are all related to one another.
In this we see a lot of I'm responsible for whatever results sort of I get. And I cannot relate it to the earlier what we had discussion about, that we do not have agency over the results that we get. If we can put the best foot forward, but still we may not be able to get the results that whatever results we get, we should just accept it. It may not be in accordance with what we had planned. As compared to this, where it says that we can actually do a lot of the things which help us getting the results? Or we are completely responsible?
No, that entire thing will apply here. I will give you an example. While all these are true, I will say changing the nature. I will take it. No, I am responsible. I have the freedom to change my nature. Once I start putting efforts, that will come. Now, whether result will come, I don't know. That argument will come. I will put effort. The day you understood, please put effort rather than measuring effort, the progress can be a little faster. So I will bring all that argument here also. So you engage. When you engage, moment you engage, bring all those rules. Here he says, you engage. There you say, when you engage, what are the rules of the game? They are there. When you get into karma, all those rules will apply. This is also a karma, an effort that I want to do, in which all those will apply. So here, this sense of agency is only partial. The other part is there. There you have to give up the sense of agency. So he talks about what happens to such people. So it's all about saying that glue of I put X amount of effort, get me the result. And if the result doesn't come, I will lose my cool. I will do everything possible to fix the system in the process. Then we'll have to see where it goes. It's like this maze in which you keep on traveling. I don't know where will you land. If you can unloosen from there, that is a great step towards this karma yoga which Krishna is talking about. He says, if you are able to travel on that path for a fair amount of time, where will you go? What kind of state of mind you will get? That's where this comes. He says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Shopakaicha Pandita Samadarshina. He says, he gives several examples here. And these are examples just to emphasize the idea. So he says, somebody who is very learned and with a lot of Vinaya and Vidya, a learned Brahman, there'll be somebody like that, or a cow, or an elephant. Hastini is elephant, or an elephant, or a dog, or a person who eats the dog. Means there is a certain class of people who maybe eating. These are all very figurative examples. Point he is making is giving a whole gamut of examples which society is generally putting some at up, some at down, some at a lower level of evolution, higher level of evolution. That is the spirit of this shloka. So he says, Shunichaiva Shopakaicha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So they, while in the world of action, they will have to do things that are demanded by the situation. In the heart of their heart, they will see oneness. It is possible to manage these two. I personally have a little experience. I don't find any difficulty in it. But I was actually, when I was a dean for 3 years here, this was something which came to my, help many times. I can actually fire a person. One of my good friend, I fire him when it comes to what? We play shuttle. And I was a dean and he was a person working here. I could do it. And neither that person or me found it very. There are many examples like this. The point is, work demands something. There cannot be any different ways of doing it. But you don't have to carry it. In fact, I could, not let somebody enter into my room on certain conditions, on certain things. Yet when I go, she may be a sweeper, I will stand and talk for 15 minutes and then go. I find no difficulty in it. And I found no difficulty in managing this oneness and the position. Position is required. All these status are all required in the world of Vyavahara. When it comes to the world of Ashraya, your empathy, your love, these words if I have to use, has nothing to do with this position. But the position demands certain things. That's why a mother, when the child is not eating, she will slap. But she has a lot of love. That position requires that. That she will do. But the measure of love and affection is not even an iota, not even a parts per million has come down when she slapped. So that Samadarshana is higher level thought. That we value people, we know people are same, plants and animals, that oneness in a much larger plane we can understand. So at that level we can measure a certain response. But when it comes to rules of the work, you are governed by rules, you have to measure. So you can become less emotional doing it. People mix these two, then you have a problem. You can be very less emotional when it comes to work, but you can show a lot of emotion outside of it. It's perfectly possible to manage these two. So that is the Samadarshana. It is not everything is same. So that you can get a class 4 employee, make him a CEO, or get a CEO, make him. It's not like that. Or you take a half a kilogram of stone, cook it, and then have shakar pongal or nothing of that kind. That is not Samadarshana. When it comes to work, it's all world are very differentiated. When it comes to spiritual thinking, the world is one. And a great Pandita, a great wise man will manage both. He will be able to handle multiplicity and still he will handle oneness. This is an idea which we have to think through and experiment in our own way. We will actually see meaning of it. Actually, in my opinion, that will give a good leadership also. People will be far more understanding of what's happening. So that is Samadarshana. It is not putting everything same and then all that. So the message I want to give, a world of work will always have differentiation. Play that differentiation in that role. But then when you step out of it, you can actually see the whole entities in a different way and respond in a different situation in a different way. It's possible we can manage both. That is, in my opinion, what is called Samadarshana. It's not mixing up everything and putting all of them on and getting a lack of discrimination, nor getting too emotional, mixing one idea with this and that and so on. Not that. Even in this case, Arjuna must respond to that situation. There, as a warrior, what he is expected to do, he is supposed to do. Outside of that, he can show all his emotion and all his things. He should know how to balance these two, which he didn't want to face it. He says, let me take sannyas and go away. I can't handle this, let me go away. That's the issue there. There he has to, as a responsible leader, you have to do a few things. So Parasurama, when he was asked by his father to kill his mother, that story, actually there is a certain measured response on which if there is something required, it has to be done. We have to analyze it much more carefully. But then after that, what happened, you should see. So that is a very, very fickle balance in life. I think they are Panditas. And that comes more and more, this Nirdvandva will give us that. We're able to step out of Karmapala. All these can slowly endow us these abilities to do things. That's what Krishna is saying. One more we will take and then. So the rest of the chapter is what will happen to such a person who has been able to use work as the basis on which he evolves. He is, Karmapala is gone, Nirdvandva, he is able to step a little bit out of duality and so on. So many things happen. Shaknoti, it is possible, is what Krishna says. Iha, here eva, iha, here, at this, here, now, is what he says. Shaknoti, iha eva, yaha sodum, prak sharira vimokshanat. Not after you die and go up. Prak is going up, sharira vimokshanat. Not after death. Here, he says, right now it is possible to endure. Endure what? He says, Kama Krodad Bhavam Vegam, this aversion and attachment. The forces called aversion and attachment will keep hitting you every now and then. That person who is able to manage that world of duality, right? Saha Yuktaha. He is the one who is a Yukta. Sasuki Naraha. He is that blessed person. It is not escaping and going away. That's why in chapter 1, last sloka, what did Arjuna say? I have no weapons, let them kill me. He wants to escape and sharira vimokshanat. He wants to, escape from the reality. He says, in the reality, can you handle this? He says, he is blessed. He will reach that state, is what he says. Yaha antaha sukaha, antaha araramaha, Tata antarjyotihi eva chayaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto adigachati. So that person will have a lot of happiness inside. Inside happiness there is no way to show. It's a personalized experience. Each one of us have to have it. So this you can only say that. Somebody says, electricity is shock is something which is unbearable. Only thing you can do is put your hand and switch on and see. Otherwise you just listen to what he says. He has had that experience, that's why he is saying. Or somebody says sugar is sweet. It's a fancy idea until I had first tasted sweet in my life. Until then it's only a fancy idea. I don't know whether sweet means white color, I mean it will be round or square, I have no idea. Unless I put it onto my mouth, and I also now join with you, you say yes, sugar is sweet. So these are all matters of that kind. He says, Yaha antasukha antararamaha tata antarjyotihi evacha, whose happiness is within Arama. He is in a state of Aram. Right? We say Aram in Kannada also. So he is peace within himself. Right? Antarjyotihi, he is enlightened within. Right? He is real yogi. Sa Brahma Nirvanam Brahma Bhutaha Adhigacchati. That is the real state of reaching, which is what he started in the chapter saying. You can do it through sannyas, you can do it karma yoga. But then Krishna never told, if you do all that, you will actually change this setting from karma yoga to karma sannyas at that point in time. He doesn't want to say that. He says, go through the process. Why am I worried about the outcome? You go through the process. He is very process oriented, so that the outcome will actually come. That's why he doesn't talk about it, he talks about the experience, and that will give them that kind of a situation. So he talks about turning the attention inwards, because it develops a great deal of stability, peace and capability to handle the push and pull of life. That happens only when you are internally, when you turn your attention inside. You will never face the push and pull of life by turning your attention outside. You have to turn your attention inside. That's what he is talking about. You can identify with the larger principle of life, see oneness with many things, and meditation. Next chapter he is going to talk. That's why he is gravitating towards how do you turn your attention inwards. That's the next chapter called Dhyana Yoga. Take 2 slokas and leave it, so that we can go to Dhyana Yoga. So labhante brahma nirvanam rishayah kshina kalmashaha chinna dvaita yatatmanaha sarvabhuta hiterata. He says again, chinna, cut, chit, they cut this world of duality. Means world of duality exists, that doesn't affect them anymore. It doesn't affect them. Anything comes, they take it and go. That kind of a situation. Yatatmanaha, very self-controlled and so on. So sarva bhuta hiterata. So as he said, when duality goes, there is no second entity. When there is no second entity, it is for everybody's good. Because you see one in everything. When you see one in everything, sarva bhuta hita will happen, a very natural phenomenon. When you see duality is only when you see all the other kind of issues. That's what he is saying. Kshina kalmashaha, all their constraints will all become shrink, kshina, right? Kama krodadi yuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. So since they are gone beyond the world of duality, some of this aversion and attachment will kind of recede a little bit to the background, so they will be able to handle. The ideas are concluded there, and then so when duality vanishes, lots of issues vanish. But vanishing duality is a very tough thing. So let's not worry too much about all those. There are a lot of practical things which we can talk about. We'll look at it when we go. Right? The examples are doctor working among the patient is not contaminated by disease. So, while he is part of it, he is still... That's the kind of situation. You are very attached, but you are detached. Attached in the sense you are very engaged in, addressing. Detached in the sense that doesn't affect you. Mentally, emotionally, physiologically, whichever way you want to say. That's a kind of a situation. Right? Boat can be in the water, but water must not be in the boat. These Ramakrishna's, these are all from Ramakrishna's parable. It's a very nice statement. Boat can be in the water, water should not be in the boat. Which means you should know how to coexist. The point that is coming through it is, world of duality will exist. How do you manage that world of duality is that winning shot in become a karma yogi. And that sannyas comes only through that. That's what it is saying. And in Taittiriya Upanishad there is a nice asanyeva sabhavati asad brahmeti vedachet. There is a nice thing which talks about the same thing. Jnana amritena triptasya kritakrityasya yoginah naivasti kinchit kartavyam asti chet na sa tattvavid. Such a beautiful shloka. He says a person is a great jnani, right? And he is kritakritya. He is said to have achieved everything and he is yogi. When he says, I have nothing to do, I have really nothing to do. If he says I have something to do, that means he is still not matured. Is what he says. He says, Naiva asti kinchit kartavyam. There is nothing to do. If somebody says that he is engaging in everything, but he has nothing else to do, he is mature. Asti chet. He says, no, I have a lot of work to do, which means there is a sense of agency. There is what I have a lot of things to do means I have something to benefit. I have something to get from it. That feeling. Then he says, Saha na tattvavit. He is not yet matured. There is one shloka like that which actually conveys this very well. So with this, Krishna ends with 3 shlokas, but I just took the 2. Here he actually puts a hook into the next chapter. Here he, in clinical precision, explains how to do dhyana, how to do pranayama. His shloka is a simple shloka on pranayama. He says, Sparshan kritva bahir bahyam chakshuhu chaya antare bruoho prana apano samo kritva nasa abhyantara charino. So he gives a method to actually do meditation. He says, this eye must be turned inside. Don't look out. And how do you turn inside? This eye can be focused to bru madhye. This point. Okay? Then he says, all that which are outside don't touch. Means don't spend your effort on outside. That's why you close your eyes, focus it here. Right? Prana apano samo kritva. Regulate the breath. Prana is inhaling, apana is exhaling. So samo kritva means regulate the breath. Right? Through the nose. So it's a technique of meditation a little bit. It's more a shloka, link shloka for the next chapter actually. Yeah? And then he says, Yatendriya mano buddhihi. Focus your control. Control means regulate your mind and the buddhi. Can you ekagra? Can you try to bring it to a focus? Munir moksha parayanaha. Vigatecha abhaya krodaha. So you can you get out of this fear and anger and all that? Saha sada muktaha eva saha. So that person will be very liberated. You get out of the domain of fear and anger. Don't distract your thoughts outside. Try to draw in. Maybe you close your eyes and all. It looks a little technical and all that. But anyway, these are only linked shlokas. So with that he says you can become more liberated. And the reason why I see these 2 shlokas is to create a logical link to the next chapter, which is the last chapter in the first triplet. I told you first triplet, there are the 3 triplets in Bhagavad Gita. Tat Tvamasi. The first triplet is about Tvam, about you. You are in this world. You have to be in this world. You do the work. Don't run away from the work. Through work you evolve. Through work you discover sannyas. All that is said up to chapter 5. Now the question that comes is, if somebody succeeded fairly in that, assuming, what is the next stage? That is the last chapter of the first triplet, which we will see. So Dhyana Yoga, which is again a beautiful chapter. There are some very nice messages in the chapter, which you will see in the next class. Thank you. So with this, the chapter ends. We will see the next class.
Can I email